Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar of the Astrology of Life YouTube channel, and also the 3 newsletters on Substack: Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and Ask the Astrologer. Today my video, very simply, is going to be titled Election Violence. Is it likely? And in a series of images here, I'm going to talk about things that stand out to me in the charts. And I'll also kind of prep you for this process so that you have a proper understanding in your mind about the likelihood of these things. And then hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a sense of what we can expect in regards to the overall experience that we'll be going through at that time, and how we will be handling it, okay, emotionally within inside of ourselves. Because from all likelihoods of what we see starting to jack itself up with Trump, we're going to be going through a pretty rough summer, and going into the fall, it'll probably be at another level, and then towards the election, it'll really get strong. And most of these charts, I think all of them, are set for November the 5th, 2024, so that we know how close the aspects are. And if you watch my videos, you know that I emphasize, whether it is Western astrology or Vedic astrology, that the strength of the events that we see manifesting are in proportion to the closeness of the aspects. And this has been observed for astrologers for a long, long time, and it proves to be very true. If you have a very close aspect in your chart, it is an indication that that quality of your life is very intense. Okay, it stands out. All right, so let's begin here with a look at the chart of the United States of America. This is July the 4th, 1776, 5:10 p.m., Philadelphia. It's the most accepted, I think, time for the chart, but realistically, nobody has been able to come out and say that I looked at my watch at that day and at that time. So you have to take off 100%, definitive accuracy on this. When you're talking about the houses, when you're talking about the planet aspects, that's a whole different ballgame, because they move so slowly that the effect, okay, of their influence will be markedly visible. And again, we're not looking here at a particular person. We're looking at the overall demeanor of the country at that particular time on that particular day. And of course, this is showing here 7:50 or 21 a.m. You could probably go back to 1 minute after midnight if you wanted to. But again, the slow movement of the planets are indicators here of accuracy. The thing which stands out the most to me very quickly, and I didn't catch this at first, I was aware of the fact that Pluto was going to be opposing Mars, okay, on the day of the election, which is very significant, and it is a signature for the energy of that day, okay, of what the temperature, so to speak, of that day is likely to be. The thing that I didn't equate with it, though, and you have to keep this in mind, is that it's not only, Mars is not only opposing transiting Pluto, but it's still within orb of aspecting the natal Pluto in the USA chart. Okay. And of course, Mars and Pluto in oppositions is kind of a, I'm ready to fight, come fight me type thing. Okay. Or let's go to war, let's go to battle type energy. So we're going to be pretty hyped up on that day, pretty nervous, pretty tense. All right. And when you take into consideration here what these particular planets mean in the houses, if in fact they were in the houses, okay, on the day, that the USA was essentially created, you have a little bit more insight here into what's going on. Pluto in the second house, okay, is really the house of our values. And as you can see here over the last 6 to 8 years, we're going through a crisis of our values, determining what it is that we truly believe. Okay, Roe versus Wade was turned over. There was a change in values. All right, so you have kind of a double whammy here. You have Pluto essentially on top of Pluto and Mars in opposition to both of them. Okay, so by itself, I would say there's a better than 50% chance here of intensity and aggression. Okay, and when I bring into your awareness here some of the other aspects at that time, I think it'll kind of put this thing together. The other important thing here about this chart, and this will begin in late summer and move on through the election, I think, and it will happen one more time maybe after 2025. This is going to be very significant for all of us. It is Uranus squaring the moon of the chart of the United States of America. The moon is associated with the public, okay? Uranus, of course, has to deal with the unexpected. It has to do with concepts of liberation, concepts of freedom, things that you cannot anticipate and cannot plan, but they do happen. And when it's squaring the moon, this is a very hyper emotional, nervous period. Edginess, I guess, is a better word for it. All right. We're talking here about a period of time of aggressive intensity and tension, emotional tension. If you have that feeling, and I'm sure most of you do now, of being not at ease because of what you see happening with Trump, at that period of time, that level of feeling is going to be upped because of things that are happening. Okay, we're dealing individually with our perception of reality, and this whole situation that we see happening with Trump defies logic, reasoning, and reality, and in a sense, the last vestiges of our resistance, okay, to what it is that is going to be happening and that needs to happen is going to be felt, okay, in a hyper sense of vulnerability, of fearfulness, of anxiety. It will not be a pleasant time for those who are ignoring the warning signs. And going back to what I've said over and over and over again through, the last several years, it is important for those of you that are spiritually aware and awake that you are bonding with your higher self. I feel very strongly that the universe is attempting to do what it can to reach us and to help transition us sufficiently to be able to take off the sting of this situation that we most likely on some level are going to be dealing with. Okay? Some other things to keep in mind here is that Jupiter is conjuncting Mars in Gemini. Okay? Lots of communication. Okay? Not bad in itself. It just simply means that communications at this particular time, okay, you could also throw into that, I suspect, voting is going to be very big. Okay, there will be probably a lot of people voting because of the fear, because of the dread, so to speak, of anticipation of what could happen. So a lot of news coverage, a lot of focus on this type of thing. A couple other things to keep in mind, but again, I have to remind you that when you're talking about the chart of the United States of America, we don't know definitely if 5:10 p.m. was when the Declaration of Independence was signed. So you have to kind of give some leeway as to how strongly, that I can go with this. But I think it's still significant if it is close to that time. We also have a situation developing here with Neptune going into the fourth house of the chart of the United States of America, hypothetically. Okay, maybe before, maybe after that. All right. Now, if you've been listening to my videos and talking about Neptune, Neptune has a high side to it, elevated consciousness, okay, higher love, spirituality, and then it also has a darker side, confusion, deception, okay, disillusion, the breaking down. All right. If this Neptune is of a dark nature going into the fourth house in America, we could be facing a breakdown, okay, in society at some level to some degree. It's in Neptune. It could be religious. Well, it's in Aries. It could have to do with things regarding Aries. All right. Although Neptune is in Pisces until it gets to that point. But you have, like I said, a situation here where if everything were on the side of evolving beyond this situation, we could see, a situation of a revolution of a positive nature. But we have yet to deal with the dark negative side to this whole situation. All right. And as a result of that, what normally happens, okay, in any situation like this, is that there has to be some kind of climactic event, some kind of trigger, some kind of wake-up call. All right. And again, this may be that flashpoint. Doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be, but it could be the flashpoint of a major, major shock. Okay. Other things to consider here. You can see here that Saturn in this chart is squaring, all right, almost exactly squaring the ascendant of the chart of the United States of America in the sign of communications. Okay. And we also have here, if I can find it, all right, and I think I can, there's an aspect in here that I'll show you in a little bit that has Saturn squaring Uranus. All right. If there is a situation here that may indicate some favorability, and what I mean by that is that while everything seems to be getting crazy, there is a sense that things are not out of control completely. Saturn is Saturn is trining the sun in the USA chart on that particular day. This bodes well for the administration, okay, because of what the sun represents and because of what Saturn represents. Or at least it's an attempt to control things, all right, to take responsibility, to bring things under control. The trick here, though, is that transiting Saturn here, all right, is going to be squaring natal Uranus, okay, Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So, again, there is this backlash or this fight back, so to speak, against the attempt to control the changes that are going on, but the changes themselves may be too strong, may be too desired by the universe to totally prevent, okay, that from actually happening. So there are many indications in this chart of many things that could happen, many things, that could be disturbing to us. A lot of confusion, a lot of communication issues, a lot of anxiety. Saturn's down here in the sign, or in the third house. All right. It's not exactly close to the moon, but it's probably close enough with all the stuff that's going on that we have to be prepared. We have to be consciously aware of what could occur at that time. And try to keep in mind here that this would not be happening if the universe did not allow it. Okay, if the universe did not want us in some way, shape, or form to go through a major evolutionary jump, excuse me, if we do not, okay, if we do not respond to this period of major evolutionary jump, we could witness, unfortunately, a situation that none of us want to see, which is essentially a total breakdown of both the governmental structure, the legal structure, the police structure, even maybe the military structure. This Neptune going into Mars or into Aries here, also could have an impact on the military, which rules the police and also rules, the military. So there is a, quote, dark side to this whole scenario if we do not properly respond to it. And I know that many of you who watch my videos, you are aware and awake, and you are understanding this inner call, okay, to separate yourself from the mental and emotional trauma going on and to bond with your astral self, to bond with your higher self and your guidance, because there may need to be changes. We may need to be aware that we need to make some adjustments and changes in our life to be able to make it through these times, depending upon the level to which they go to. And again, that's really important, okay, because I know this is scary. I know that it is unnerving and disturbing, and I don't believe that I can ever recall ever claiming that I knew absolutely for certain that I was right in any kind of an astrological assessment. I personally don't believe in predicting, okay? It's not that you can't make assessments, but when it comes right down to making absolute predictions, I think that that is probably ethically, morally, not always the smartest thing to do. And that, quite honestly, for the majority, the vast majority of psychics, astrologers, and others that I have known, you can't do it, okay? Even the highest level guidance that I have had the privilege of dealing with in my life proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that they will not interfere, okay, with us. They want us to grow and to decide for ourselves. So keep that in mind, keep that in mind. Excuse me. The horoscopes are indicating a lot of activity, but the final result is going to come from what the universe does permit and doesn't. All right, so let's move forward here a little bit to some of the other factors here. Here is Uranus squaring the moon that I mentioned. And again, the feeling here is unease. It's nervous tension. Okay, it's those oh my God moments, what next type of things. All right, here's Neptune opposing the midheaven. And again, keep in mind that we don't know if these houses are absolutely accurate. Okay, this could change, the outcome of things. And going forward here, this is finally the last piece in regards to the Western astrology that I wanted to talk about here, because this has been with us for at least 6 to 8 years. You'll see here in a second how close this is going to be. All right. What I'm talking about here is Eris. All right. The not so planet, okay, that is beyond Pluto and that takes something like 600 years to go around the sun. That's a long time. That's a very slow moving, planetary body. And the fact that it is square here under 1 degree Mercury, okay, you can see it right here. All right. On the day of the election, it is squaring Mercury by ½ a degree. All right. It also is by 3 degrees and a T-square to Pluto here. Communications, revolution through transformation in communications. All right. Here's another example. We have Pluto, natal and transiting Pluto opposing, transiting Mars. We have Uranus squaring the moon. We have Neptune possibly going into the 4th house. We have Saturn squaring the ascendant. And now we have Eris. All right, so you put all these together, and what an astrologer would basically, I think, come up with, at least most astrologers will come up with, is that this is going to be a very volatile, tense time with a lot of anxiety, a lot of escalation of fear. Okay, and oddly enough, I think it's important to say this, even if for some reason Trump is in jail, incapacitated medically, all right, that will not stop these aspects, all right. You can't always keep your focus totally on what's going on with Donald Trump, although he is definitely an important part of this puzzle. But these other things here, okay, are just simply the outer descriptions of how things are going to feel at that particular time and what we can expect. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, those of you that are meditators, all right, you want to strengthen that bond internally. You want to rise above your mental and emotional bodies, and you want to connect with your astral body if you can, and you want to connect with your guidance and your higher self. All right, because you need to understand and know what your place is during these times. And those of us who are awakening understand what our place is. It's important to have that, okay, as a stopgap. Otherwise, you get caught into the mental and emotional negativity. All right. And as that escalates, fear becomes violence, violence becomes madness. Okay. And that's not where we want ourselves or the country to be thrown into. All right. I think I have a couple other videos here that I'm going to share with you. And I'm not going to go into these in great detail, but I'm going to bring out one point that I found significant. This is the U.S. chart used by the majority of Vedic astrologers. They have a different time. They use 6:30 p.m. on July the 4th, 1776. And the most significant thing in here to understand is this. In this particular chart, Saturn is in the 10th house. Okay? Transiting in that 10th house at that particular time is Ketu. Now, to understand Ketu, Ketu is much like Pluto. And Pluto and Saturn combinations always indicate a restructuring or the tearing down of Saturn structures and bringing in Ketu realizations. Okay? So this transit at that particular time, November the 5th, 2024, indicates that that is something that we can expect. And of course, Ketu has been in that particular sign for quite a while. So it's probably also indicative of what it is that you see going on in the country over several years. If it were closer than that on the 5th, I would say that the circumstances would be much more dire. All right, much more dire at that time. And then I have another one here. I also did a chart on the Sylvie chart, the USA time of 5:10. You can see that these are different from the one I just showed you. But the significance here is this. Here's the USA chart according to the Sylvie time of 5:10 p.m. It's the moon. All right, but looky here. Saturn, okay, by transit on the 5th is within, it's conjunct because it's in the same house. All right, and of course the house, the 4th house is the home, it's the mother, it's happiness, so to speak. This in itself is a very strong indication, if this chart in fact, is the more accurate one, that our disposition at that particular time is not particularly joyful. It's not a time to celebrate. It's probably a time of sadness. It's a time of very deep introspection, of being forced to look within. That's something that you probably ought to write down somewhere. Whenever you are having thoughts, feelings, and experiences that make you unhappy, this is the way the universe has designed things, to cause us to choose to go within. All right? Because oftentimes there's no outward answer to what you're going through. When you're talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, there is no common sense answer to it. It's just something that feels like it hit you. All right? But there is a purpose for it. All right? And the purpose very simply is that we have to, at some time in our lives, maybe multiple lives, all right? There are times when some, but not all of us, realize we're called to come home. We're called to come within, okay? And I think it's important to say here for everybody, this is something which surprised me when it was something that I realized. As far as the universe is concerned, there is no good, bad, good, evil. There simply is the energy of consciousness in some people's lives that is rising higher, okay, evolving consciously into the light, if you want to use that word. And there are other souls that have chosen to go down to a certain degree into the material aspect of life. All right. They're not wrong. They're not evil. They're just evolving in a different direction. And there are a few of those that have chosen, for whatever reason, to go into the darkness. And I suspect it has to do with a desire for power more than anything else, and a desire to have control over the physical world. You see this with Donald Trump, that despite all the things that he's done, the convictions on him and everything, that he has the ability to control things financially. He has the ability to get millions of dollars no matter what he is and what he does. All right. And this is a karmic thing, okay, for purposes that are pretty much unknown to everybody. But if you do embrace karma and you understand, okay, how the universe functions, or feel that you do, you realize that no common, ordinary Joe and Jane can just pull that off. All right. And again, I know that's not always easy to embrace and understand, but it's something which it makes sense to me. Maybe it makes sense to you. If it doesn't, that's okay. All right. All right. I believe this is the last one, and I'll go back here to the first chart again. All right. I think I've covered everything that I would want to cover, or everything that I see here in all of this. All right. And again, the thing to keep in mind here is that the real enemy in all of the stuff that's going on is the fear that this is creating. And it's revealing to us that whether we like it or not, that we do carry a lot of fear of the unknown in particular, fear of ourselves. And that if we are to make it through this time in a way that we become better consciously, more in alignment with our purpose and our higher self and the desire of the universe, that we have to confront that. We have to come to terms with that. All right. These things, the world wars, in particular World War I and World War II, if you look at them from a different level than just politically, they were a way of cleaning house. Okay. You can go into the Bible if you want to, into the book of Revelation, and there's kind of indicators in there too that that's kind of the plan that, you know, the early interpreters of the Bible anyhow felt that God was saying that there's going to come a time and there's going to be extreme violence, extreme suffering, and that just like in the time when the flood and things like that, that at times the universe decides to clean house because maybe the egos and the free will and the choices that we make as a world are not living up to the highest level, the highest potential. And that's not the fault of the universe. That is our choice. Okay, and that's how we find ourselves where we're at. Okay, I hope that you enjoy this. I hope that you do. I enjoyed sharing this with you, even though it's quite painful and in some cases not a pleasant thing to do. But it's part of the promise that I have made to myself, and I have felt since I started this back in 2016 that I needed to be sharing with folks about Donald Trump and about the energy around Donald Trump and about the condition and the state of the world and our country and where we may be headed and how you can deal with that. You can only control you. You cannot control anybody else. Okay? You can vote. Okay? And that's something that I will do and my partner will do. But the outcome is not in our hands. Not entirely. Okay? So, keep in mind that both CJ and I have newsletters over on the platform Substack. I have 3. They're called Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe. There's another one called Trump in America, and the third one is called Ask the Astrologer, where you can ask me questions. Okay. CJ has two called CJ's World and CJ's Whispers of Knowing, where the guidance that she is receiving, she's also sharing, okay, to support and to give you strength, okay, in these difficult times, and to give you hope that, you know, this situation of your guidance and your higher self is not some joke. It's not a crackpot joke. This is a reality, okay, this process of wakening up. And we want to be able to share these insights with you because that is our calling, really. It's where we've gotten to in our relationship over the years. All right, now, I mentioned briefly on the last video I think I did that I have restarted a group in Facebook. It's called Knowing Beyond Believing. And it specifically deals with topics that have to do specifically with what it means to be awakening, meditation, oneness, consciousness, okay, astral travel, the astral world. The group is designed specifically for education, to be able to talk about things to help you to gain some insight about maybe what you're going through, to help you to understand what to expect, to find some support from others that are going through similar experiences or that have had similar experiences. So it's essentially a support group. And I have all the charts that I have, or actually diagrams that I have gotten from my guidance upon or about, you know, the relationship between the lower self and the higher self. And I put all my videos on those topics over there as well, so you can watch them if you like, or download them, I think, probably too. And we have around 56, I think, members that I personally invited. It is a private group, okay? When you come there, there are certain rules we go by, and there are certain questions that are asked. You have to fill out the questions. You have to abide or agree to the rules before admission is allowed. And the reason why we're doing that is very simple. We're not a group that is a social group where everybody kind of comes in there and says, hi, 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 what's going on? You know, did you shop today? Stuff like that. Well, we don't want that. There's plenty of other groups on the internet to go and do that. All right. We're focusing upon teaching, CJ and myself, and some of the others that are there, and of giving you insights and giving you clarity about how you can strengthen your inner relationship with the universe and your guidance. And we do that because we feel it's necessary to have that kind of a refuge. Okay, where if you're serious about your growth, you can come to a place where what we do is serious. Okay, not scary, but it's serious. All right. Okay. Very shortly, I'll be putting out in the community section the 2 days in June that I'll be doing the live streams on Saturday morning from 10 to 11, okay, a.m., Trump Talk and Awakenings. And we'll keep everybody apprised and up to date with what we see going on. All right. And hopefully give you some comfort and support in that as well. Okay. All right. From the low of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, many times my teacher. Okay. I love her. I adore her. And I'm very fortunate that in a lifetime of many mistakes and boo-boos, I finally had that relationship that I think that we all hope to have. All right. So come and join us over on Substack and be a part of what we're doing over there as well. Thank you for watching.